Hello, thank you everyone for joining us today to talk about how Bayer leverage technology to improve workplace communication. For those of you who are new here, I'm Sophie Thompson, CEO of VirtualSpeech, a leading provider of soft skills training. We provide role plays online and in virtual reality to help teams improve their communication skills by up to 25% in just 10 minutes. Today, I'm joined by Kristina Scherb. I'm so sorry, Kristina. I should have asked you how to pronounce your surname before we started this. Could you just confirm how to pronounce it?
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. Kristina Scherb would be in German, but Kristina Scherb, that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you. Kristina works in workforce transformation and skills strategy at healthcare multinational Bayer. And Kristina brings more than 20 years of experience across HR, talent development, and organizational transformation across global teams. In her current role, she focuses on building future-ready capabilities, exploring innovative learning tools, including AI and VR-supported soft skills training, which is what brings us here today. We want this webinar to be interactive, so please feel free to drop your comments and questions below, and I'll try to make sure we ask Kristina. We have set aside about 20 minutes at the end to go through those questions. So, Kristina, welcome. As a workforce transformation leader within Bayer IT, you sit right at the intersection of people and technology. So could you tell us a bit more about your role to get us started?
Yeah, you perfectly framed it, actually, Sophie. And before I start, thank you for inviting me to this webinar today. The role sits within global IT function in Bayer, and it takes care of different strategic upskilling initiatives for our IT workforce, as well as taking care of different initiatives regarding transformation processes. And that's also how I actually used AI-enabled learning and role plays last year, because we had a specific project coming up, and I'm happy to share some of my experiences and learnings from that with all of you. And as you said, I mean, this session is for you, for everyone who is joining today. So please, drop your questions in the chat, or also if something is not clear. I'm not a native speaker, so if something is not clear, then just please let me know.
You're perfect, don't worry. So we're talking about the how we used AI to solve a human skills challenge. And every transformation starts with a clear business need. Could you tell us more about the communication challenges that you were seeing?
Yeah, actually, there was a concrete challenge that we had last year. So in our global IT department, we set up a new hub in India, and we recruited a couple of hundred new colleagues joining our IT function. And with that, the first people were joining, and they were joining our teams consisting of European and US colleagues and people from all over the world, actually. And we saw a challenge in that communication, especially in regards to intercultural communication, got a little bit difficult, or there were situations coming up where people were not sure how to behave correctly, maybe also what was meant. So it was challenging for the teams. And therefore, we thought of a blended learning approach that helps everyone to work effectively again. So we thought about the first thing that was really needed is to create an awareness on cultural differences, and also on the differences in communication or preferences in communication. And we created a learning approach consisting of 3 different measures, actually. So first of all, we asked all of our colleagues, not only the new joiners or the Indian colleagues joining Bayer, but also our colleagues from Europe and America, to do a quick self-assessment regarding their cultural preferences. So as you know, there are direct, indirect communication styles, then cultures that tend to be very hierarchical, others don't. There's also risk avoidance or risk openness. So just different ways of working and communicating, of course. And there's no right or wrong, but just differences. And first of all, we wanted to make sure everyone is aware of those differences and aware of he or she currently can be seen in the different dimensions. And as a second measure, we created a workshop where we brought everyone together to discuss in a work team what kind of situations were challenging for the colleagues or the employees, and how can we overcome this. And when I led those different workshops with the teams, I found out that people were sometimes very shy or quiet in the background. And there I figured out that we would need a third dimension, actually, to really get everyone completely involved. And so I heard about the AI-enabled roleplays, which is a very good measure to give people a chance to be in different roleplays and practice situations. And I think one very big important thing for us was that we created roleplays according to real scenarios or real challenging situations that we were facing in Bayer. So I talked to different working teams. I talked to colleagues from India. I talked to colleagues from the US, Europe, managers, and also employees, to really figure out what kind of situations came up a couple of times that were named as misunderstanding or not sure how to behave correctly. And I collected those and created the role plays. So we could build these very specifically according to our real life experiences the teams have made. And so everyone was able to use those role plays and practice in a very safe environment. So you just interact with one AI-enabled avatar. For those who have not yet practiced with VirtualSpeech, you talk to an avatar and you get an immediate feedback afterwards by a virtual coach. And you get a score out of that, and the coach helps you to go back to certain situations and practice or go back again. You can also see your score improve over time. So this gives a very safe space for everyone to practice without losing face or without, getting a connection with your peers in danger. But it's just for you and the avatar, and you can go there as often as you wish. You can practice as often as you like, and for as long as you like. So this was very, very helpful, because one main message that we wanted to really achieve with all of those training measures in that context was that there's no right or wrong way of doing business. There are just different ways of approaching, but to get maybe to the same outcome. And that was very important for me to get this message, that there are no stereotyping or stereotyping behavior transported in this message, but rather that there are just different ways of achieving the same thing. And that trust is really, really very important to be a well-performing work team, right? So if there's a certain foundation of trust in a work team, then it's also easy to speak about problems or to ask questions, and also bring forward maybe, topics that one is not so used to speak about. So therefore, trust is really, really important. Also the awareness. And this helped a lot in that situation. And this is how we actually started using VirtualSpeech and AI-enabled role plays to also use it for other situations. But this was really the first project, and it was really, really helpful for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important what you said there about building trust as well. Like, it's not just building cultural awareness or those skills, it's building that trust for people to be able to communicate. And you spoke about how you customized the scenarios to be in line with real life situations that had happened between your colleagues. How did you go about customizing that? So I guess partly from a learning design perspective, and then partly from a platform perspective as well. Like how did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I said, the most important thing was really to create a value add for everyone involved. So therefore, it was really important to get relevant, real life scenarios in the role plays. So not something that I just made up myself or, I Googled somewhere, but rather really talking to managers, talking to colleagues, talking to people from all over the world, and really bring relevance into the role plays. That was the first thing, because we want to achieve, of course, better performing teams. We want to achieve employees being satisfied and bring better out or perform better in the end, which is also, of course, a benefit for the whole company. So therefore, it was really important to get relevant role plays. And to be honest, my personal prompting skills to prompt the scenarios on the platform also developed. So the first role plays I prompted, it was, I first was not sure if the outcome would represent what I was looking for. But the good thing is that you can quickly change and adapt. So of course you test it and you collect feedback if this is what we want to achieve. And the good thing is that through the platform, you can really quickly adapt, change or update the prompt in the background to make sure that the avatar and the scenario represent this real life scenario or the case that you're looking for. And also, it's getting easier and easier. And this is also one of the advantages, to be honest. You're very, very quick. So once you collect the demand from the business, within under 5 minutes, you can create a new role play. So this is also very, very important for scaling, of course, and also to be very flexible in the approaches and to deliver and to meet the demand of the business. Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you design for cultural nuance? So without oversimplifying or relying on stereotypes?
Mm-hmm. I on purpose did not say that we want a role play of different cultures, like, for example, India, Europe, US. Instead, I designed it to really reflect the Bayer work case scenario. So to give you a practical example, there were meetings taking place in a work team, and people were asked in the end by the manager, well, are there any questions? And then there was a silence. So everyone in the room, or for some people in the room, it was clear, everything is set, everyone aligns, everyone agrees. But this was obviously not the case for some colleagues. So therefore, the situation was really important to get these nuances and also reflect those in the role play to make sure that the criteria, once you do this role play and you get a score afterwards, also reflects that you take into account that some people might not speak up or might want to get called out personally to get their view or their opinion on things. So therefore, it was really important to talk to people and collect their experiences and also to find out what the topic is to create role plays of relevance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, adoption is one of the biggest challenges that L&D departments face, and we have had a lot of questions that have come in about it before the webinar. So I'll run through some of them now because it was the most popular topic that people were asking about, which I think you understand why. So what was your biggest challenge to adoption?
Well, first of all, calendars are fully booked of people. Everyone is busy with projects, busy with meetings. So therefore, just to create another workshop or another training is something people might not be a big fan of. So therefore, I don't want to repeat myself, but relevance is really, really important. So that they see a personal connect, why they personally could get a benefit or a value add out of this. Once we wrote that out, we also didn't do it mandatory. It was really open to anyone who wanted to test it out. But once the first colleagues tested it, they were really positively surprised how well this worked. And first, we positioned as these role plays as VR role plays. And then the first questions came up on, oh, do I need VR headset? Oh, then I need to come to the office because some people work from home. They don't have a VR headset at home. So this also, some questions came up on that, of course. But then I figured out it's always good to start, maybe the first time you enter the tool, you start with a VR headset once you're in the office to see what is possible and to get this very immersive experience. But it's not necessary to further use the VR headset. You can also do the role plays on your desktop, which is an important factor for scalability because it gives you the possibility to use the role plays between meetings or to just go to the tool for a couple of minutes. You don't need a full hour or so blocked in your calendar to do the training. You can do it really from your desktop and squeeze it in and prepare for meetings, for example, or debrief meetings, for example, on feedback, critical feedback or so, or other communication skills. So therefore, I think the factor that it's relevant, that you get a personal benefit out of that, and that you can also do it on your desktop at any time, and you can repeat it as often as you wish, and it's safe. Nobody else sees that. That was, I think, a big thing for really creating a big adoption. That was, I think, once people see that they really get something out of that, that creates also an intrinsic motivation to go back to the tool and use it again. And we don't only have our Bayer-specific role plays in the tool, but also other soft skill trainings available. So when I talk to people, they say, well, I also saw there are trainings on negotiation skills or trainings on presentation skills and so on, which is also good. And this is always something that people need in any role. So independent on in which function you are and which role you are, these kind of trainings help you also to prepare for board meetings or leadership meetings or presentations. You have to be on stage somewhere, so you can really try that out and prepare for yourself, which also then increases your skills because the more you practice, the more confident you get, and then this is also something you can transport back, and this helps you also in your day-to-day role.
Mm-hmm. And how did you communicate that relevancy to people? So did you rely on organic pull? Did you do any launch events? Did you have internal ambassadors or anything like that?
We did internal launch events. We did town halls. And for me personally, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to just try it out. And this is what we did. So we had launch events and town halls. And at the same time, we had VR glasses in the room. So it was town halls, not virtual, but at presence. So people directly could jump afterwards to the VR headsets and try it out. And that was automatically then, so we automatically created advocates for the whole topic because they were then telling their colleagues how well this functions and how positive this was. And maybe one thing I didn't mention, once you talk to the avatar, of course, the avatar has a kind of framing because of the prompt in the background, but it adapts to you as a person. So whatever you say, it really reacts to you. It's not that it always says the same thing to anyone who plays the same role play, but it adapts to you, your language. And I think this is also a big benefit, actually, to have this personal interaction, as you may call it, with the avatar and the role plays.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any hesitations or negative reactions from people by using AI avatars? And if you did, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, of course, some people said, well, is this now replacing the human interaction? This is replacing my colleagues, my peers. And of course, this shouldn't replace any human interaction. This is one puzzle piece in a bigger picture. So as I said in the beginning, when we had the challenge with so many people joining the organization at the same time, we created this this learning ecosystem of 3 different measures coming from different angles and supporting different needs of each person in the organization. And this is also something I would always say in the future is really important, to have this interaction with your colleagues, also to have face-to-face trainings, to have peer learning cohorts with colleagues. This is very important, especially for different needs. For example, if you're looking for more technical skills that you want to learn. But for soft skill trainings, I think this talking to an AI-enabled avatar in the role plays is really a very important puzzle piece. As I said, as you can use it at any time and as often as you like. So therefore, that should not replace any human connection or exchange.
No, definitely agree. It's a tool in the toolbox. And working with global teams, training has obviously been taken by people from different cultural backgrounds, and people across different communication styles, learning styles. How did you cater for different needs, such as if someone couldn't use a VR headset, or if someone didn't want to use headsets, or for not neurodivergent populations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good question. And we also thought about that. But also here, the main question should always be, what is the main learning target? So what is it that the organization wants to achieve with the training? So there should be a concrete outcome, a concrete learning outcome at the end. So once you create this kind of trainings, it should be clear on what is it that the people should take with them. And therefore, as I said, creating scenarios that people benefit from personally for their work, or replicate work scenarios that might be challenging for people. That is one thing that can also help people, depending on what their personal needs are, to really prepare for certain situations, because then they have their safe space. There is no judgment at all. They have the virtual coach they can use. They can come back as often as they like. And also the needs of everyone are different. Some might come back a couple of times to prepare for example, for an interview or for a conflicting debate or feedback situation. And others might just go there maybe once or don't even use that at all. And that's also totally fine. And I think, as you said, it's one tool in the toolbox, and there should be different tools available. Everyone should be able to pick what suits him or her best.
Mm-hmm. And which teams did you find that this training helped the most, and what were some of the results that you've seen?
I mean, originally, of course, we started to support those teams where we, had suddenly a lot of new colleagues joining. So, for example, we had teams consisting of 15 people and 10 people were just new joiners. So therefore, of course, this was our target group at first to create this mixture of 3 different learning measures for those teams specifically. But we figured out that everyone, especially this communication role plays, anyone can benefit from that. So therefore, we also promoted it also outside those working teams, and anyone was able to use it as appropriate, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of the can you share any data on the results that you saw or stories?
Stories. I know from one colleague, for example, that he said he really had an aha moment when he was in the workshop that we did face to face with the whole working group, and also afterwards with using the AI-enabled role play. And he said that he was not aware of some of the things that were going on. He said that he himself thought he would be very empathetic and would be able to read people, but he got also an aha moment and also learned something new. And he received practical advice also from the avatar, what to change and how to change. And he said that he uses that. So it helped him as a person, as a leader in his role, to be more, to get more output in his role, to get a better connection to his peers, to his team colleagues, and to perform better in the end. So sometimes it's very small advice or tips or nuances that brings you to a new behavior. And this is also what it is all about, right? Because how can you measure if this is a success? In the end, you can measure if a behavior changes. And this is why there should be always different tools in the toolbox, or different pieces of a puzzle coming together, fitting together, complementing each other. That you have one goal in mind that you want to achieve with those learning measures. That you at the end change a behavior of people, and that the teams are better performing, have a layer of trust, as I said also in the beginning, and are more successful in terms of business outcomes. And this is what, of course, is in the end always important.
And to be able to receive practical advice as well, not just theoretical.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how did you demonstrate the ROI and business impact internally?
As I said, the feedback was very, very positive from people who tried the role plays, for example. We saw also, of course, a positive impact and change in the scores that people were doing, or this is what they said at least. So they could get practical tips, they changed their behavior, they were more successful in certain situations. This was one thing. And also, we received more and more demand from other parts of the organization to create role plays outside of the role plays I just presented for our colleagues, also outside of the IT function, because the potential is enormous. And therefore, this is also one indicator to see, okay, this is working for a lot of people. The interest is there, and this obviously fills a demand in learning and upskilling.
Yeah. And how do you see this growing as a mainstream training tool versus continuing with other methods? Like, do you see it continually being integrated as a blended learning solution, or do you see instances where AI tools in general might replace some of those more traditional methods?
Yeah, a very good question. I think it's, as I said, it's always really important to keep this personal interaction and really talk to people, and to be better prepared. Then the role plays can really help build up more confidence and try out different things, try out different leadership styles, and so on, to be better equipped for the workplace. For me personally, it would be an absolute game changer if we would not just have role plays for a certain scenario or a certain situation that is challenging, but rather have the avatar as your personal coach, like in an everyday working environment. So, for example, at Bayer, and maybe this is also relevant for other companies here on the call, we move away from an organization that is just about titles or roles. It's more about skills. So the relevance of skills and to adapt to new skills constantly and to learn more and be flexible gets more and more important. And we will, in our organization, we will focus on technical skills and also personal skills that you would have as focus skills for your current role or your position in the company. So there's something that you need to achieve. And once you do, like a self-check, you see where certain maybe skills gaps are for you personally at the moment. It would be ideal if this avatar, the AI-enabled avatar, would help you go from here to there, to move from the present day to reach your focus skills and to reach a certain level that you want to achieve. So therefore, it would be great if it somehow would be enabled in your daily applications like Teams, for example, so that the avatar would also go with you into meetings, would observe you, would give you feedback afterwards, and then move away from these specific scenarios that we prompt, but rather focus on an overall coaching strategy to help you with your personal targets, with your functional skills to move to a certain state. So that would be ideal. If it would not be tied anymore to a specific scenario, but rather see you as a person as in a whole and helps you transform and develop further as an individual, and also ultimately, of course, to be more successful in your role and deliver for the company.
Yeah. So then the coach would have a memory of you as an individual, the goals you want to achieve, the conversations you've had, and be able to give you like tailored feedback in that way.
Yeah, exactly. That would be cool. And also, if there's no, if it would be with you with single sign-on, would be there for you, as you can, you can switch it on, switch it off as you prefer. But that the avatar would know what your goal is and would also get to know you better as a person and help you, and give individual feedback and advice to you.
The hyper personalization of learning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My last formal question, although I think you probably answered it anyway, but in case there's anything else you wanted to add, if you had one wish for the future of learning, what would it be?
That it's not about content anymore, but just really that it helps you as a person to develop with your individual strengths and development needs, and that it's to the point and very focused and gives you relevance.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it comes back to what you said right at the start about it being relevant.
Yeah, because there's so much, information out there. And that's what I said in the beginning. The calendars of people are always full and people are busy. So therefore, learning should be something that is an integral part of our daily business life. And therefore, the learning needs to be on point and focused and specific enough to really create a benefit and a value add. Otherwise, it's not perceived as a personal benefit, and then the motivation drops. And therefore, this is, for me, the answer.
Yeah, it also comes back to what you were saying earlier about everybody's calendars being busy. And I think the general, sometimes there's a general negative, like stereotype of training as something you've got to do, something that's not relevant, something that takes hours. Whereas with like AI tools, like VirtualSpeech or like coaching that you're talking about, you can just dip in directly at the point of need. You don't have to set aside hours and hours. You can just have a 5-minute conversation or get feedback for 5 minutes. Great, thank you. I will run through some audience Q&As that have been pre-submitted first, and then we'll come to some of the live questions too. So the first question is around, are there any frameworks, lessons learned, or best practices that you would recommend when designing culturally sensitive communication training? What would your advice be?
Yeah, so there is a risk of producing something that can be perceived as stereotypes, as I said, and that would not benefit anyone who would do the training. So therefore, I would do it the same way again, really ask colleagues who are affected and really ask what are the challenging situations, what exactly happened, how was the situation, how was the perception, did you talk about that afterwards, or had anyone else had the chance to maybe talk about what was strange and how was everyone feeling? So collecting those real interactions or challenges, that would always be my recommendation, to really go from there instead of colleagues from Spain always react like this, or colleagues from Germany always react like that, because there might be a tendency that people from a certain culture react in a specific way, but just a tendency. At the end, people are very individual and also have different personalities that can also affect how they behave in the workplace. So therefore, really collecting scenarios that really happened and might also affect other teams, then this is always, I think, a good way forward.
Mm-hmm. And then the next question is linked to that, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, and then I can speak from a VirtualSpeech point of view as well. What is your advice in terms of setting up the role plays? Is it to create a database with different personas, learning objectives, and feedback criteria? Have you picked up any tips and tricks along the way?
Not easy to answer, because I don't want to repeat myself. But I think it's relevant also to put in personas that reflect the real situation, and also be clear on the criteria that will be drawn for the feedback afterwards. So I think the really first thing is, what is it that you want to achieve in the end? What is the outcome? And be very focused and precise with that, and then go from there and create the prompt and make sure that afterwards a lot of people from different parts of the organization test it and give feedback to ensure that it's meeting your point.
Mm-hmm. Have you tried the Easy Generate functionality on Roleplay Studio, which was released only a few weeks ago?
I saw it, and I also saw also prompts on how they came out. But this is something I definitely want to learn more about, to be honest, because this can also then help a lot to make sure that also the feedback criteria is on point, and that everyone gets the most out of that. That also the quality stays high for each of the role plays, independent of who created the prompt. But with that, I guess that you can assure a similar quality of each role play when we use that Easy Generate tool.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is because you don't have to do as much like prompting as you did before. So earlier on, when you mentioned about how you'd learned around prompting with Easy Generate, you can just describe what you want from the prompts. You don't have to write it yourself. You just describe what you want the learner to learn, like so what the purpose is. You put in the avatar's persona, so like behaviors, personality, and then just put in what feedback criteria you want, like what the learner should be assessed on, and then it will generate the first draft of the prompt for you, so you can just go ahead with that, or you can edit it to be more specific. So that should make it even easier. So
I will definitely try that out.
Did you find that certain avatar styles or feedback methods worked better for neurodivergent users?
To be honest, I have not specific feedback from neurodivergent users concerning certain avatars. So it's not that I specifically know who I need to reach out to, but I received feedback from just different colleagues, and there might also be colleagues who are neurodivergent. So of course, the facial expressions are sometimes things that could be improved, and this might maybe help some people more than others to interact and exchange with the avatar. But therefore, again, the question would be for me, what is the outcome we want to achieve with a role play? And if that is to be more, that the avatars are more engaging with certain groups of our people, then this should be something one should have had a separate look at. But this was not part of our projects so far, that this was a specific criteria for us. But it's an important aspect, absolutely. And I think this is something we should also put more focus on in the future, and also make sure that that everyone feels connected with the conversations with the avatar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the second part of that person's question was around accessibility in general, which you mentioned earlier. People don't have to use a VR headset, for example. They can use the desktop version, and it's used as a blended learning approach. So it's not the only method of training.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to some live questions now. Let me have a quick scroll through. Oh, I'm just seeing where people are tuning in from. Buenos Aires, Argentina. That's very cool. Okay, so somebody has a question about the flexibility of role plays and the user experiences using VirtualSpeech. So you touched earlier on the flexibility and how quickly you can create role plays in as little as 5 minutes. I know that you're focused on intercultural training. Where else what other use cases have you seen VirtualSpeech used for?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm part of the IT function, and we used it for this specific case. But I know that also other parts of the organization are using AI-enabled workplace, and use cases can be, I think, anywhere. But we also, I mean, you can use it for example, to prepare for interviews. You can use it for your procurement department, or also if you have conversations coming up with external inspectors, for example. So these are all use cases where the preparation of a conversation is recommended. And I think in the past, a couple of those colleagues working in the departments, they used role plays with colleagues, yeah, simulating situations, which is also good, and that should also still happen. But of course, the quality of these kind of role plays change depending on who you have as a counterpart in those role plays with a colleague, and also, is the colleague available? Does he or she have time for you to prepare before a certain meeting comes up that you need this preparation for? And again, here, VirtualSpeech or AI-enabled role plays can be an important puzzle piece to fill in that gap, because then you can also try it, practice, go back to the role play, get the feedback. And the good thing is the feedback is always unbiased, which is also good and an important factor. So independent on what your personal or cultural background is, the avatar or the virtual coach gives you always an unbiased feedback. And this is also very, very a positive or benefit, I would say, especially also for other units if they prepare for certain, as I said, inspections or negotiations, for example, or interviews. So there are a lot of different use cases. And at the moment, we also at the very beginning trying out to use these role plays or the exchanges with the AI-enabled avatar for also organizational transformation topics. So to ensure that people from all over the world, managers, team leads, employees, have the same level of quality when it comes to upskilling on a certain topic. And you can at the same time upskill 100,000 people if you like. As you don't have to fly around trainers around the world, or you don't have to book trainings in your calendar, but instead you can have a chat with a coach. And as I said, we just try it out that you can enter the meeting and say, well, I have today 10 minutes, or I have 20 minutes, or I just have 5 minutes, but still I need some practical advice on that topic. So please put the organizational theory into practical bits and pieces for me. What can I do in my role right now, today or tomorrow? And we just tested it, and the first experience were very positive. So there are a lot of different use cases available for bigger companies, for smaller companies, depending on what your needs and demand really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Something that we found with a few customers is they've reported feedback that with the AI giving people feedback, people are much less likely to get offended and actually like damage those relationships with an in-person role play partner, because we come with more emotion when we practice role playing with a person. It can feel awkward, and then if you get negative feedback, you feel embarrassed. Whereas when practicing with an avatar, our customers have told us that people tend to take that feedback more seriously. If it's negative feedback, they have a much more objective and don't project their emotions onto it, which is also really interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody has asked, how should we handle situations where an AI roleplay might go off track, or if it doesn't respond as expected? Are there any best practices there? I can probably answer that one. So we have some guardrails in place already, so that, for example, you can't, in the middle of a negotiation role play, you can't ask the person like what the weather is doing that day, for example, or like the World Cup score or something like that. It has to stay. They will always steer the conversation back. And then also when you're writing your like role plays, if you're doing customized ones, using a very like logical modular approach. So even putting things in there that say, do not say XYZ, or do not go off track, is like a double guardrail in that respect. Somebody's asked, do managers get to see the AI analytics to know where their team is struggling, or is it completely individual to the user?
Yes, it's individual, and data protection and data safety is really, really important. So therefore, every employee has a personalized license, and only he or she is capable of seeing his or her score, and also to see a trend or a shift in the scoring, for example. And also how often he or she goes into the tool and on which kind of role plays is played. This is not something that we would see or share with the leaders, but instead we trust that if this helps and supports the workforce to be better in a specific skill or capability, then this has a positive effect on the whole team also. So therefore, this is not something that we would report to the manager, but instead we would trust that the employee and the manager would have an exchange on what kind of skills could be a focus skill, or could be in focus for deepen with an AI coach and an avatar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's worth mentioning, sorry, I can't remember who asked that question or where they were from, but there's different privacy laws like around the world with that. So I know in Germany, like you're not allowed to see that. So that's something that you don't see. But we have clients in, say, America who are allowed to see that. So they do have that functionality. So I guess from a VirtualSpeech platform point of view, that functionality is available for people, for managers to see that analytics, but also it can be like you don't have to if you, for example, are in Germany and aren't allowed to see that data.
And this can also be, I mean, dependent on where you're located at. This could also be a fun thing, I could imagine, to say, well, let's share our scoring and do a kind of fun competition or so. Once we all have to, for example, do the role play with presenting slides on a specific topic. Let's see how everyone is doing and compare the scores. This could be also a fun thing to do. But yeah, so the regulations are different in each country, but for us, that would not work.
Yeah, in some with a lot of our clients, there's people have leaderboard as well, so they can see who in their organization is doing better. And people do get very competitive. Actually, even internally at VirtualSpeech, like we'll notice like, oh, so-and-so, you've got a 9.5 on this. And then it turns out it's one of the learning designers. So they've got insider knowledge on how to get the best scores.
That's good.
Somebody has asked, does your virtual learning content connect to a larger LMS within Bayer for tracking employee development?
No. At the moment, there's no connection to another LMS. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, that is a possibility. That is something that VirtualSpeech can do. But to be honest with you, not many of our clients do choose to do that. I think it's one of those things that people quite often in like exploratory calls, people will ask if we can do that, and we're like, yeah, but actually very few people choose to action that. Somebody's asked, if a company is doing their very first AI soft skills pilot, what specific scenarios would you recommend starting with to get a quick win? Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a very good question. So when I talk to different people who also use the tool for this specific scenarios, but also to the role plays that are already available, there were 3-4 role plays that sticked out to me because they had such a big relevance for a lot of people, and this might help you also. So the first role play is the one that I also mentioned a couple of times, presenting in front of a big audience. So you can upload your own PowerPoint slides, you can upload your own notes, and you can also let the system know if you would like to get disturbed or if you get questions from the audience or not, so that you can have different level of how you would say, different level of complicatedness, I would say. So this role play is really good one. And also there's one where you have to practice impromptu speaking. So where you get a couple of pictures or words and you sit in front of different avatars. I think there are 3 or 4 in the room, sitting at the table, looking at you, and you have to just say out of the blue something that comes to your mind. This also helps to improve language skills, for example, or flexible speaking. And this is also very helpful. Or there's also a Shark Tank exercise, which I found very funny because I just tried it out just out of curiosity, to be honest. But the avatars there are very critical and ask very critical questions. And you don't come out of that with just, I want to say hi. So you're really, really critical, asking and coming back to the same points if your answer was not concrete enough. So also very good practice, I think, also if you are facing critical conversations, for example. So this is also a good one. And there are a lot of other really good ones. So really depending on which kind of company you are in, what your demand is, what your situation is, what the skills of your workforce currently are. So where is your workforce currently in certain skills, and where do you want them to be? This can also be a good point to decide on which kind of role plays are of interest to you to start with.
Mm-hmm. And Bertie, who uses VirtualSpeech with work, has commented that he found the sales training content great. It was challenging in a good way, and the feedback was helpful. So thank you for that, Bertie. And then a final question around if it's someone's first time using either AI or VR, which I'm sure you've had many people in this situation, do you have any advice if people feel a bit awkward or self-conscious? So I know, especially when it comes to VR, like we've seen over the years, like people who don't want to put on the headset because they're worried that their friend might take a picture of them, or they feel self-conscious. And similarly, if they're speaking to avatars and there's other people around them. Have you noticed people feeling awkward or self-conscious, and is there anything you've done to mitigate that feeling?
We have own rooms where people can go to have their private space when they use the VR headsets. So that answers maybe the first question. So you have your own space, if you like, that no one takes a picture, or it could be a funny or awkward situation. So you have your private space. You have your safe space also to try that out, because it could also be awkward if you say something to the avatar when you have your VR headset on, and then somebody else is outside and understands what you say but doesn't hear what the avatar says. This could be also strange. No, we really tried to give everyone the space everyone needs, and that's worked well. Yeah, and sorry, the second part of the question was around.
Oh, that's a good question, Kristina. What did I say? Around, yeah. If you've done anything to mitigate people feeling self-conscious or awkward, I think I would add it's around creating that like safe space around them. So whether that's a separate room, whether that's putting enough distance between people who are practicing, or if you're in a workshop environment and someone has a VR headset on, and if you see someone get out their phone to take a picture, just asking them not to, or alerting the person in the headset, like, are you happy for this person to take a picture? Because then it's still around that like privacy and psychological safety. So that's some of the things I would recommend there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really important, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because also if somebody has a bad experience, it will then like taint the whole experience, even if it was something completely external to the training itself. Well, that brings us nicely to time, actually. Thank you so much, Kristina, for taking the time to share your experience and your success with everything that you've done with communication training. I think everybody will have learnt a lot. We've had quite an active comment section, especially around making sure that training is relevant and personal to the people taking it, and how AI can support that. Thank you also to everyone who has joined us live today, sent in any questions before or during. If you would like to continue the conversation, or if we didn't get round to your question, or if you just have thoughts, questions, etc. afterwards, please do reach out to either of us. So yeah, happy to be added on LinkedIn, or in my case, emailed, or reach out to anybody on the VirtualSpeech team. So yeah, thank you very much, Kristina. It's been a really good conversation, and hope you all have a great day.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much, Sophie. Take care, everyone.